Hi, hello, and welcome back to the Wool Sea Knitting channel. My name is Rachel, I am your host, and today we are going to be talking about winter knitting plans. This is not a video I usually do because my winter knitting plans are usually folded into whatever making plans I decide to share for whatever the year is ahead. But we have just officially had our first flurries of the season here in Ottawa. I can see them outside my window. And in honor of that, because it's like a month late from when we usually get our first snow, I want to talk all about winter knitting. Even though winter is the longest season we experience where I live, I want to keep these very focused and realistic. I often get carried away when it comes to these sorts of seasonal inspiration and planning videos because they're just so fun. It's so much fun to dream, but I want to focus this time for time reasons and also trying to be realistic and then not be like artificially upset with myself because I somehow didn't knit 4 sweaters and 16 pairs of socks. And so I want to focus on stuff on the list to cast on very shortly that I've been thinking about and dreaming about for a long time already and is going to be made up of stuff I already have in stash. So this video will be divided up into knitting plans first, sewing plans second, and spinning plans third. There will be timestamps down below, and I'm putting the stuff that I think people are the least interested in at the end so you can just click off. At the very top of this list is the Baby Bear Balaclava by Pernille Larsen, who is one of the people behind Knitting for Olive. This is a super popular pattern, but for babies and children, and my goal is to knit an adult version for myself. So I talked about this last year as well because I got a braid of fiber that I wanted to spin for it, and then I did half of it and then abandoned it because the fiber was quite felted and I didn't really realize that as a novice spinner before I started spinning it. So that was tough and I stopped doing it. I finished it, and I'll go into the trials and tribulations of that in my next podcast, but I have the yarn here. This is like a third of it. I have more, but it's all separated into different balls and skeins because of issues I had during flying. Not really the point. My goal is to make the Baby Bear Balaclava, but in more of a worsted to bulky weight gauge because this is a pattern that's, I think the biggest size is for like a 10-year-old child. I'm not a 10-year-old child, I'm a 27-year-old adult woman. And so I'm hoping that by making it at a bigger gauge, I can make it fit my large adult head. And because my neck and forehead are very sensitive, and also because I knew at the time I wasn't going to get enough yarn spinning this felted fiber, I have also gotten this super luxe, this is again last year's purchase, Road to China Light from the Fiber Co. yarn to do the ribbing around the face and for the neck. And I'm going to do the version with the shorter neckband, not the part that's also a shoulder and chest warmer. So this is going to be sort of the head of the balaclava, and this is going to be held double for the face and the neck. I think this is going to be really fun. I like winter accessories for the excuse they give us to be a little bit more out of the box when it comes to styling choices. And it's also really bloody cold. So that's my hope. I don't think I have enough yarn to do all of what I want in this because I'm not a very good spinner, but I think I could get away with it with this supplementing that yardage. And also I might do the ears in this again to have it kind of be like all the contrast stuff in this really soft color, but we'll see. This I find ends up being really generous. It's also one of the softest yarns ever. It's super luxe. I used it for the neck and face of the other balaclava I have, which is the November balaclava by Petite Knit, which I like a lot, but I just wish it covered my forehead because my forehead gets quite cold. Probably going to be my second cast on this winter. This is my treat that I'm going to get to do once I'm done all my gift knits, or at least my 2 most pressing gift knits. And I think I'm going to take this with me when I go back to visit family over the holidays. Next up, I want to make myself a pair of Christmas socks. But I want it to not be too over the top Christmas so that I feel like it stands out that I'm wearing Christmas socks any other point in the year. And I have a sock set ready for this, which is the Jolly Holiday colorway by Tiny Human Knits, which is this. It's a self-striping sock yarn. I love self-striping socks. They've been on my needles for almost all of this year. And I think it'll be really fun to kind of finish that off this year with a Christmassy kind. And as you can see with these colors, They're sort of holiday-ish, but they're not over the top Christmassy. So I think that I can wear this a lot, but then I will privately know that I'm wearing Christmas socks and get extra enjoyment out of these around the month of December. And to have a little bit of selfish knitting going on right now, and to kind of mark the beginning of the festive season for me, I'm going to cast these on December 1st, which is this upcoming Sunday. So that's going to be my first cast on. I'm going to do these as vanilla socks, and I'm really excited about it as some kind of downtime knitting in between the flurry of gift knits I have going on at the moment. Next up is a project I am super excited about. I have talked about wanting to make this for a while. It's been a super popular pattern. I think its popularity has ebbed a little bit since its release a couple years ago, but every time I see one, I still think it's so impressive. I still think it would be so much fun to make. And I think I finally have enough yarn in stash that I could make it the way that I want to without having to go out and buy stuff. And it is the Scout Shawl by Florence Sperling. I have been accumulating more Intarsia knitting experience through doing my Howl's Moving Castle cardigan, and I have been really into pink and blue for the past, I guess, year and a bit. So I want to make a pink and blue Scout shawl. I am also at that time of year where my office is always frigid, and I would like a few more options for how to keep warm and still feel very me while I'm there. And like I said, I like winter accessories for pops of color and brightness during otherwise a very gloomy time of year. So I want to make the Scout shawl mostly in these two yarns, which are Rico Baby Merino. It's a superwash merino yarn. It comes in these 25 balls. I got it on sale a couple summers ago at Wabi Sabi, and I didn't realize it was superwash when I bought it, which has kind of limited the things I can pair with it in stash because I don't typically buy a lot of superwash unless it's stock yarn. I was thinking for a while I would do a 2-color Scout shawl, but that just doesn't work, and so I have looked through my stash and found a whole bunch of sock scraps, mostly from Emily C. Gillies sock sets that I think would pair with it quite nicely to extend the use of those two baby merino balls that I have, that are also superwash and will add, I think, really nice pops of color and kind of go with the tones of this, which to me are kind of both like warm toned. They're sort of browny, if that makes sense to you. But if these two are my base and what most of the shawl is going to be knit in, I think that these yarns will add very nice contrast and kind of create a really beautiful color story, especially these two. So obviously I don't have a lot of these left, but I think that these will extend these really nicely. There are a couple 3-color sections where I think this would be a really beautiful pop and contrast against this, and this will be a nice neutral background for these two, and keeping with the sort of warm undertones of these base yarns, which is something that's been tricky in finding scraps to go with these colors. Is for the most part I buy cool toned yarns because I'm more cool toned and look better in them. But for socks I care about these things less, so I'm going to use these, a little bit of this, and then I think probably also this mini skein of yarn left over, which is a really light blue with speckles of darker blue, which is left over from another Tiny Human Knits superwash sock set. So I'm pretty pleased. I think it'll be nice. I think it'll be fun. And this is part of what me and a couple friends are calling Extravagant Knit Winter, for embarking on those projects that are so beautiful and you always love and you keep saying, I'm going to knit that one day, but then there's more basic stuff going on that you want to do, or gift knits or things in stash that you want to prioritize, and then that really extravagant knit keeps getting pushed to the side or lower on the to-do list. And so I'm going to be making this. I think my friend wants to make a colorwork cardigan, and so that's going to be my extravagant knit for this winter. I think I'll get a lot of wear out of it as a shawl, scarf this winter, and that's another reason why I really like the Scout shawl. It's called a shawl, but it has a really long and narrow shape, which is a lot more wearable for me because I can use it as a scarf instead of a shawl. And I love color work, and I think this combination of stranded and intarsia will be really, really fun. I'm excited to use scraps. I'm excited for the challenge of making the limited quantities of these contrast balls go as far as possible with this plan that I have of having it be mostly dominated by 2 colors as opposed to the 5 that the pattern is written for. And I now also feel a little bit more confident now that I see just how little yarn you need for intarsia. Next on this list is a sweater, but I'm going to have to draft the pattern myself because I saw this in like cottagecore YouTubers vlogging being at the thrift store and tried on this sweater and showed like a 2-second clip of it, and it was brown, and she didn't end up even buying it, but it sung to me a little bit. I thought, oh my god, I want that sweater, but I want it in a different color, and because it was at the thrift store, who knows how old it is, and the vlogger didn't say, and it's by this brand, so I have no ability to track down that sweater. I don't know when it was made. I don't know what it's made of, but I took a couple screenshots of the design because I want to see if I can recreate it. I have been feeling a lot more confident in doing so after embarking on my self-drafted cardigan journey, and I've been finding I don't know, I haven't been as drawn to as many knitting patterns lately, but sometimes I see ready-to-wear stuff and I think I want that in my wardrobe. So I'm just trying to follow that while I feel capable and competent and able to do so, and while it seems like an exciting and interesting creative exercise. So I want to make it out of this blue yarn that I have in stash. This is Etrofil Blue Faced Luster. I bought it on impulse. I shouldn't have, but I did because it was inexpensive and 100% blue faced luster, and I love this color. I think it suits me quite well. And so I want to make this oversized, cabled, triangle raglan. I don't think it would be that difficult. I looked at the stitches and I looked at the cables, and I think it would be very straightforward but also very fun. And I'm just picturing this as an oversized, super comfortable, super cozy sweater for the weekends and evenings in winter. I think it'll be excellent. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping to go on a trip in February, and I would like to be wearing this sweater for most of it, or at least working on it at that time. In my head, I've been calling this the self-drafted breastplate sweater because it reminds me of armor. I know that's super loose, but that's how I've been thinking about it, and I'm really excited to try and see if I can make it myself. And I've already done some like basic thinking about the math because I've already knit a swatch of this to try and make it into something else, so I know a fabric and gauge that I like, and I think it's a pretty straightforward cable pattern, so I'm pretty pumped about that too. And last, I think I would like to try and make a pair of ruffle socks this winter. I wear loafers at the office most of the time. I keep them in my locker, and I think it would be really nice to have a pair of ruffle socks to wear it with them. I think it would be pretty subtle but still fun for me, and professional enough for my workplace. I haven't decided which yarn in my stash I will use for this, but I have so many that I think will fit that I'm not concerned about that. This is a lower priority one because I think these other projects will keep me plenty occupied, but I think it would be nice, and I think it would be still a lot of fun, but something that I could work on during my lunch breaks, because after you do the ruffle, my vision for this is either a really basic rib pattern or an all stockinette sock. I might try and just self-draft this, but I know if I don't want to, the petite knit ruffle sock pattern is always available and there, and a tried and true one as well. Moving on to sewing plans, number 1 on my list is to make a black mock neck long sleeve shirt by using the Kiana Bonolo mock or turtleneck pattern, because I already have the pattern pieces cut out. I've also already made one of these in more of an autumnal fabric that I really like. I found the pattern a good first stretchy fabric pattern, and I went to Joann's when I was recently in the States. All of this will be covered in the podcast, I promise. And got this black cotton spandex rib fabric on sale. So that was very nice. And so I already cut out the pattern pieces and I just need to sew it together, but knitting has been the priority lately. And I think that'll be a really useful basic in my wardrobe. My favorite type of garment is a mock neck. I like a crew neck as well, but I like things to be high up in the winter. I find them really good for just as a top, but then also as a base layer when it gets really, really cold. And I think the black one will be super, super wearable. The fabric is a little bit thicker, which is great for winter. Not super interesting, but that's number 1 on my list. And I like the pattern a lot as a beginner. Next on my list is making the Wilder gown by Friday Pattern Co., but as a blouse. So I got the pattern on sale when my local fabric store had a sale recently, and it looks like this. But the pattern version, the view I will be doing is going to be longer. You can see it'll be the first one here that I'm going to do. And I did a lot of research before buying this, and it seems something that I would really like to wear. I'll pop another photo of it as the blouse version so you can see a little bit more clearly, but apparently this is super beginner friendly. I'm hoping that that'll work out for me, but apparently this is an easier top to make because it's a raglan, which I think is funny because that's so much more common in knitting patterns than it is in sewing patterns, and yet here I am going for it as a sewing pattern. Like I don't already have enough raglans in my life. The goal is to make a couple blouses I can wear to work and will feel very neat and feel a little bit more timeless. And I really like the neck ruffle detail. I like the sleeves. I think a raglan line is always very pretty, and I like the femininity in this. And I'm going to make it out of some bed sheets that I thrifted. I went thrifting for bed sheets with a friend of mine about a month ago so that I could have a lot of fabric that I'm not afraid to cut into, which is typically the problem for me. So I got this sheet. I think it's a poly cotton blend. It feels like super typical, inexpensive sheet. I like this color a lot, and I have so much of it. I think it's a queen size sheet. I'm not too concerned about making a couple mock-ups or muslins of the Wilder gown blouse in it. And so I can get a little bit more practice and hopefully work on fitting, because I want to make a mock-up, hopefully a wearable one that I could still like end up wearing to, I don't know, brunch or something, even if not to the office. But the goal is to just kind of practice in a low pressure way. I got the pattern on sale. I got this for like $5 Canadian, which is what, $3 US now. And I also got this absolutely massive, I think this is a rayon blend, but that's not based on sewing experience, that's based on being picky about the clothes I buy experience. This one, as you can see, it wrinkles super easily, but it's a duvet cover. So it's folded over and it's queen size, so there's just so much fabric, and also a dryer ball that got caught in here when I washed it after going to the thrift store. But I think this would also be nice as that blouse. I think it would suit me, and both of these are super soft and comfortable. They have, one has more structure than the other, and I think that that will be really, really good practice. But if I can get one in each color and feel confident in what adjustments I need to make so I like it, or just have a couple things that I can wear to the office now that I'm going more and more in person versus working from home, I think that'll be really nice. And I think that this is a good pattern to start building more skills in terms of sewing, because I'm still very much a beginner, and I am currently in a phase where I'm looking as much as possible to make stuff that it's not a big deal if I mess up, but most that I can really work on extending skills and building knowledge in my sewing so that I know how to problem solve, or I can identify what problems are and not be too afraid of cutting into fabric, which is something that currently terrifies me, because in knitting, almost all of the time you can just unravel something. In sewing, once you cut, you can't uncut. So that spooks me, I will not lie, but I think the combination of bed sheets and the fact that I like this pattern and I wouldn't mind it in a couple colors will make it a good next sewing project for me, besides the mock neck, but I've already made that once and I'm not too concerned about it. And last, spinning plans. This one is a little bit harder for me because I am currently in this thing where I have a bunch of beautiful braids that I've bought at different fairs that I don't want to spin until I'm better at spinning. So then who's going to be the sacrificial lamb to help me get better at spinning so that I can make the pretty things I keep buying? I think it's this braid. I have this merino, feels like cotton candy, like purpley, pinky braid. I think this was 25 grams. I've used a little bit already to finish off something else of merino that I got from Small Bird Workshop. And this is merino, which is not something I have done any wheel spinning on. Oh, I've also rented a spinning wheel from the Ottawa Guild. I think this is going to be it. I think it'll be a faster way so that I'm not like committing to a whole 100-gram braid. And I know that merino sometimes takes a little bit longer to spin because the staple length is shorter than most of the stuff I've spun thus far. I've been prioritizing long wool or medium wool breeds. Start learning, but I would like to start figuring out how merino works and how to spin it comfortably and confidently. And I think it's going to be this, because I think this would be really nice as a accessory once I make it into yarn. Not too concerned about the usability of this because I really like these colors. Merino is super soft and really versatile. I can make it for myself. I can make it into something for somebody else. And I like these colors, and I think it'd be wonderful contrast in like a color working mitten or hat for either me or someone else. So I think that in my next goal in spinning is to get better and to start being okay with with fibers with slightly shorter staple lengths. So this is what I think I'm going to spin first, but the knitting and the sewing is currently my priority more than spinning right now. That varies week to week, I'm going to be honest with you. But those are pretty much all of my winter making plans. What are yours? If you're also in the Northern Hemisphere, do you care about winter knitting, or are you a lot more focused on finishing up your fall plans or whatever you have in store for 2025? Are you still in the throes of gift knitting? I am very interested to know. All right, thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk again soon.